It's 2002. A family patriarch lies on his deathbed. Not just any patriarch, the man who built the most powerful corporate empire in India from nothing but polyester yarn and audacity. His sons stand at his side. But when Dhirubhai Ambani finally takes his last breath, he leaves behind no will, no blueprint, no heir, only a kingdom and two princes. What followed wasn't just a battle over billions. It was a dynasty-threatening war that would split India's most valuable company in two and transform Mukesh Ambani into a business emperor unlike anything the country had ever seen. In the late 1990s, Dhirubhai Ambani had everything a self-made man could dream of. India's biggest industrial empire, national recognition, and two sons standing ready at the gates of legacy. But behind the scenes, he was running out of time. By 1997, his health was faltering. Years of intense work had taken a toll. He suffered a stroke in 1986 that left one side of his body partially paralyzed. Yet, he refused to step away. Reliance was his creation, his cathedral, and he would rather burn out in the boardroom than fade away quietly. But time wasn't on his side. His second stroke came in June 2002. This time, it left him in a coma. For 2 weeks, the nation waited. Outside Mumbai's Breach Candy Hospital, crowds gathered. Politicians came and left. And inside the hospital room, Mukesh and Anil stood side by side, still as sons, not yet as rivals. On July 6, 2002, Dhirubhai Ambani passed away. He left behind no will, no legal instructions, no document dividing the empire. It was the final twist in the story of a man who built his fortune without rulebooks and, perhaps unintentionally, set the stage for his sons to clash in the vacuum he left behind. With Dhirubhai gone, there was no longer a gravitational force holding the family orbit together. The story of Mukesh Ambani as a titan begins right here. At the moment, his father, the original architect, vanished from the blueprint. Mukesh Dhirubhai Ambani was born on April 19, 1957, in the dusty city of Aden, Yemen. Not in a lavish hospital, but in a modest setting where his father worked as a gas station attendant. His early life didn't start with silk and silver spoons. It started with grit and gasoline. His father, Dhirubhai Ambani, had left India chasing work opportunities, but not wealth. Back then, the Ambanis were just another immigrant family surviving the Gulf. By 1958, the family moved back to India, settling in a crowded chawl in Bhuleshwar, Mumbai. Mukesh, his brother Anil, and their two sisters shared a one-bedroom apartment. The walls were thin, the dreams big. Unlike elite industrial families, the Ambanis didn't own factories or businesses. What they had was a father who believed ambition could be passed down like a family heirloom. Mukesh's early years were soaked in the chaotic rhythm of Mumbai. His playgrounds were narrow lanes. His entertainment was books and family discussions. His father didn't give him pocket money. Instead, he made him sit at the office, asking questions about balance sheets and raw material costs. But while the world saw a skinny kid walking to school, Dhirubhai saw something else, a future CEO in a school uniform. By 1966, Mukesh Ambani had enrolled at the Hill Grange High School in Mumbai, studying alongside his brother Anil. But unlike typical students, Mukesh's education wasn't confined to textbooks. After school, he'd often accompany his father to work, getting a crash course in grassroots capitalism. Dhirubhai believed in mixing school learning with real-life hustle. In 1974, Mukesh got admitted to the prestigious Institute of Chemical Technology, UDCT, in Matunga. While his classmates were dreaming of research labs and cushy jobs abroad, Mukesh's weekends were spent visiting textile factories. He wasn't learning chemistry just for science. He was learning how to refine India's industrial future. Then, in 1981, Mukesh left India to pursue an MBA at Stanford University. That was a turning point, but not for the reasons you might think. At Stanford, Mukesh absorbed cutting-edge ideas in business, strategy, and technology. But just 1 year into the program, he got a call from his father. Reliance was pivoting. From textiles, it would move into petrochemicals, and Dhirubhai needed his son by his side. So Mukesh dropped out of Stanford, not because he couldn't finish, but because building India's largest refinery was a bigger classroom than anything in California. In 1984, Mukesh Ambani married Neeta Dalal, a schoolteacher from Mumbai. But this wasn't just a romantic love story. It was the beginning of a public-private partnership that would redefine the concept of a power couple in India. Dhirubhai had first noticed Neeta after she performed in a dance recital. Impressed, he invited her for a meeting and casually asked if she'd marry his son. Neeta, bold even then, asked to meet Mukesh before making a decision. When they did, they connected instantly. Their courtship was short, their marriage long-lasting. Together, they raised 3 children, Akash, Isha, and Anant, while building one of the world's most expensive private residences, Antilia. But Mukesh's private life has never been purely private. Every move, every family photograph, and even their children's weddings have become national news events. Still, within all that spectacle, Mukesh and Neeta's bond has remained surprisingly grounded. Neeta eventually took leadership of the Reliance Foundation, the family's philanthropic arm, and Mukesh often credits her for his personal stability. While Mukesh built pipelines and data networks, Neeta built schools, stadiums, and hospitals. When Mukesh Ambani returned from Stanford in 1981, Reliance was still a textile company, polyester, synthetic fibers, and modest revenues. But Dhirubhai Ambani wasn't dreaming of fabric. He was dreaming of crude oil, polymers, and pipelines. And Mukesh, just 24 at the time, was about to become the architect of India's most ambitious industrial transformation. His first big assignment? The construction of the Patalganga petrochemical plant, a site that would serve as Reliance's first real leap into heavy industry. Mukesh didn't just manage the project. He lived it. He stayed on site for weeks, eating with workers, understanding equipment, and learning to make decisions worth millions before his 30th birthday. By 1985, the shift was visible. Reliance Textiles became Reliance Industries. Petrochemicals, plastics, and refining were now at the core of its operations. Mukesh wasn't in the background anymore. He was on the front line. Throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s, he introduced backward integration, meaning Reliance would manufacture everything it needed, from raw materials to finished goods. Polyester fibers? Reliance now produced them. Paraxylene, a raw material for polyester? They produced that too. While other Indian firms relied on imports, Mukesh built infrastructure. While others outsourced, he built in-house capacity. And while most CEOs made moves based on quarterly results, Mukesh played the long game. By the early 1990s, Reliance wasn't just a company. It was becoming a universe, one that manufactured, distributed, and controlled its own ecosystem, powered by Mukesh's belief in scale, speed, and self-reliance. In 1992, while Reliance Industries soared in valuation, another story was unraveling on Dalal Street, India's Wall Street. Harshad Mehta, the flamboyant stockbroker, had triggered the biggest securities scam in Indian history. And Reliance was suddenly in the spotlight, not as a victim, but as a potential player. Allegations surfaced that Reliance had used various proxy companies to corner shares and manipulate its stock price. Although nothing was directly pinned to Mukesh or Dhirubhai Ambani, whispers turned into headlines. Then, in 2002, more serious trouble brewed when SEBI, India's market regulator, accused Reliance of using illegal means to control stock prices during a massive share buyback. The fallout was public and painful. SEBI imposed fines. The Indian media went into overdrive. Critics accused the company of behaving like a shadow empire with backdoor access to regulators and politicians. And yet, no criminal charges stuck to Mukesh or his family. Still, the damage to their reputation lingered. The biggest blow came in 2005 when India's finance ministry alleged that Reliance Infocom, one of Mukesh's newer ventures, had routed funds through dummy companies to avoid scrutiny. Again, investigations followed, fines were issued. Mukesh, known for his silence, said nothing publicly. Instead, he let business results speak. In 2007, Reliance and Mukesh Ambani reached a settlement with SEBI over multiple disclosure violations, a symbolic act that closed the chapter legally, if not in public memory. For some, it confirmed their suspicion of crony capitalism. For others, it was just a billionaire navigating the gray zones of a still maturing economy. By the mid-1990s, Mukesh Ambani wasn't just building factories, he was building monuments to scale. The most iconic among them was the Jamnagar refinery. What started as an idea in 1996 became, by 2000, the largest oil refinery in the world built from scratch. Located in Gujarat, the site spanned over 7,500 acres, more than 5 times the size of Monaco. It could refine 660,000 barrels of oil per day, and Mukesh managed the entire project like a general preparing for war. He set aggressive deadlines, created micro-teams for each function, and demanded accountability down to the last bolt. At its peak, the refinery had over 75,000 workers laboring 24/7. The Jamnagar project wasn't just about oil, it was about control. Mukesh wanted Reliance to own every part of the supply chain, from refining to retailing, and this refinery became the command center. Crude oil would come in one end, and plastics, fuels, textiles, and petrochemical products would leave from the other. By 2002, Reliance wasn't a textile company anymore. It wasn't even just a petrochemicals giant. It was a multi-sector empire with tentacles in oil, retail, telecom, and finance. And Mukesh? He was no longer his father's assistant. He was a king in waiting. But then came the unthinkable. On July 6, 2002, Dhirubhai Ambani passed away. The man who built Reliance had left, and left no will behind. Mukesh and Anil were now at the helm of a $25 billion empire. 2 brothers, 1 crown, no instructions. The year was 2002. With Dhirubhai Ambani's sudden passing, India lost more than a business tycoon. It lost its industrial mythmaker. But for the Ambani family, this wasn't a storybook ending. It was a trigger for war. Dhirubhai had left no will, no formal succession plan, just a legacy, and 2 sons. Mukesh, the elder, already wielded de facto control over Reliance's core businesses: petrochemicals, refining, oil, and infrastructure. Anil, the charismatic younger brother, handled finance, telecommunications, and power. Initially, the brothers tried to hold it together. In public, they smiled. In boardrooms, they shook hands. But behind the scenes, tensions were boiling. Decisions clashed, strategies diverged. At the heart of the conflict was control. Who would lead the Reliance Group? By 2004, the power struggle had gone public. Anil accused Mukesh of bypassing board protocols. Rumors flooded the press. Investors panicked. Family dinners turned into battlegrounds. The media gave it a name: the Ambani Civil War. Then, in 2005, a quiet force stepped in. Kokilaban Ambani, the family matriarch. She brokered peace not with words, but with clarity. The empire would be split. Reliance Industries and IPCL, the core businesses, would go to Mukesh. Anil would receive Reliance Capital, Reliance Communications, Reliance Energy, and Reliance Natural Resources. It was not just a corporate restructuring, it was a dynastic divorce. The companies were renamed, the shareholdings redrawn. Mukesh and Anil would go their separate ways. The Ambani surname would remain common. Their destinies would not. For a while, Mukesh focused on what he knew best: energy, manufacturing, and scale. But behind closed doors, he was watching the world change. The internet wasn't just connecting people, it was rewriting economies. And by 2010, Mukesh Ambani had made a decision that would alter India's digital future. He would build a telecom network, not just any network, the largest 4G LTE data network in the world. Its name, Jio. Jio wasn't born out of competition, it was born out of vision. Mukesh believed that data would be the new oil, and just like he'd done with crude oil, he wanted to control the full pipeline, from bandwidth to smartphones to entertainment. For years, Jio operated in stealth mode. No flashy ads, no subscriber leaks, just quiet tower building and fiber laying. Over 250,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable, enough to wrap the Earth 6 times, was laid across India. Then came September 5th, 2016. Jio launched with an offer no one could ignore: free calls, free data, free everything for 6 months. Rivals laughed. Experts called it unsustainable. But within 170 days, Jio had added 100 million users, the fastest uptake of any telecom service in history. The market flipped. Airtel, Vodafone, Idea all lost millions of users and billions in market cap. Jio forced prices down and data usage up. India became the world's largest consumer of mobile data, all thanks to one man's bet. Mukesh wasn't just selling SIM cards, he was selling access to a new economy, one powered by apps, cloud, content, and control. In March 2019, the world watched as Mukesh Ambani hosted what many called the most expensive wedding in modern history. The bride and groom? His son, Akash Ambani, and Shloka Mehta, the daughter of diamond magnate Russell Mehta. But this wasn't just a wedding, it was a global spectacle, a masterclass in wealth display, and a cultural event that stitched together Bollywood, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, and international diplomacy. The pre-wedding festivities were held in Switzerland, complete with ski resorts, fireworks, and private concerts. Guests were flown in on chartered jets, among them Tony Blair, Sundar Pichai, and the entire upper crust of Indian politics and business. Then came the Mumbai wedding. The venue? Jio World Center. The guest list? Over 10,000. The entertainment? Beyoncé, flown in for a private 45-minute performance. No phones allowed. Just diamonds, designer lehengas, and drone-led light shows. Critics called it excessive. Economists did back-of-the-napkin math and estimated the cost exceeded $100 million. But Mukesh Ambani wasn't just throwing a party. He was broadcasting a message that Reliance was no longer just a business empire. It was India's first true dynasty. For many, the wedding symbolized India's growing inequality. For others, it was cultural pride on a global stage. But for Mukesh, it was personal. This was his son and legacy, stepping into the spotlight. And in true Ambani fashion, it wasn't done quietly. In 2023, Mukesh Ambani wasn't just India's richest man. He was its most influential industrialist, presiding over a conglomerate that stretched from oil rigs to online shopping carts. Reliance Industries, under his leadership, had become a digital industrial hybrid. Oil and gas still fueled the backbone, but the legs, arms, and brain of the business were now telecom, retail, cloud, and green energy. Reliance Retail grew into the largest retailer in India, swallowing mom-and-pop stores, high-end brands, and e-commerce platforms alike. It partnered with Facebook, Google, and Microsoft. JioMart challenged Amazon and Flipkart head-on, blending local supply chains with cloud infrastructure. Then came green energy. In 2021, Mukesh pledged to invest $10 billion into renewables. He unveiled plans for a gigafactory in Jamnagar, producing solar panels, green hydrogen, and battery storage. Just like he'd done with textiles and telecom, he was now betting big on India's energy transition, and all this while grooming his children, Isha, Akash, and Anant, for succession. Akash now heads Jio, Isha oversees retail, Anant is steering the energy vertical. Unlike his father, Mukesh is leaving no ambiguity, no civil war, no will needed. Today, Reliance's valuation tops $200 billion, and Antilia, the 27-story Ambani home, towers over Mumbai like a physical metaphor of their empire. Vertical, complex, and nearly untouchable. But Mukesh remains remarkably private. He rarely gives interviews. He avoids controversy. His mantra? Build silently, disrupt loudly. Mukesh Ambani doesn't shout, he doesn't tweet. What he does is far more methodical. He builds things so massive, so integrated, so undeniable, that they don't just participate in the economy, they reshape it. You might look at Mukesh Ambani and see a billionaire, a monopolist, or even a symbol of corporate dominance in India. But look a little closer, and you'll see something else. A man obsessed with control. Control over his supply chains, control over data, control over power, in every sense of the word. From a cramped one-room apartment in Mumbai to Antilia, the world's most expensive residence. From polyester yarn to green hydrogen, from missed cricket matches to telecom towers touching the clouds. Mukesh's story isn't just a rise, it's a blueprint, but it's also a warning. Because behind every empire is a question. What happens when one man holds this much? When every fiber of a nation's daily life, from phone calls to groceries, runs through one corporate artery? For now, Mukesh Ambani controls the pipeline. of oil, of data, of attention, and he's not done building.